subscribe to our channel and hit the bell to not miss new stories. I used to think my life was perfect. Mark and I had built a life together that many would envy, a beautiful home, a steady income, and a comfortable routine. Yet, somewhere in that routine, I lost myself. I remember the nights when Mark would come home late from work, his mind consumed by deadlines and meetings. I would sit alone, lost in my thoughts, feeling more like a ghost in my own life. Then came Jake. He started working for us as our driver, a fresh face with an athletic build and an easy smile. At first, I barely noticed him, but as the days turned into weeks, I found myself stealing glances at him in the rearview mirror. His dark hair, chiseled jaw, and toned arms were impossible to ignore. I told myself it was harmless to admire him from afar, a fleeting thrill in my otherwise mundane life. But as I sat in the back seat, my heart raced for reasons I didn't fully understand. I was drawn to him in a way that scared me. I remember the first time our eyes locked in the mirror. It was electric, a spark igniting something within me that had long been dormant. I tried to push those feelings aside, but the allure of temptation was too strong. "Sarah, you okay back there?" Jake asked one day, his voice smooth and inviting. I nodded, a blush creeping up my cheeks. It was just a simple question, yet it felt like an invitation to something more. I knew I was crossing a line, but the thrill of it all was intoxicating. As the weeks went by, my fascination with Jake deepened. I started to look forward to our drives, the moments of laughter and shared glances becoming a highlight of my day. I found myself sharing secrets with him, things I hadn't told anyone else. It felt so liberating to connect with someone who saw me as more than just Mark's wife. One afternoon, while Mark was at an important meeting, I asked Jake to help me run some errands. It was a casual outing, but the air was thick with unspoken tension. We laughed and joked as we drove through the city, and as we parked in a secluded area, I felt a rush of adrenaline. "Do you want to grab a coffee?" I suggested, trying to sound casual. Jake's eyes lit up, and just like that, we were off to a small cafe tucked away from prying eyes. We shared a table, our knees touching under the small space, sending shivers down my spine. That day marked the beginning of our secret meetings. We stole moments whenever we could, fueled by the thrill of the forbidden. Each encounter was a dance on the edge of a cliff, and I was addicted to the rush. I knew I was playing with fire, but the heat was too enticing to resist. I can still remember that fateful day as if it were yesterday. Mark had called to say he'd be home early, and panic washed over me. Jake was already at the house, and I needed to think fast. I convinced myself that we could just act normal, that I could hide the truth behind a smile. But fate had other plans. I had just pulled Jake into my arms for a brief kiss when I heard the front door creak open. My heart dropped as I turned to see Mark standing there, his expression a mix of confusion and disbelief. Time seemed to freeze as the reality of the situation settled in. "What the hell is going on here?" Mark's voice cut through the silence like a knife. I could see the betrayal in his eyes, and it sent waves of guilt crashing over me. Jake stepped back, his face paling as he realized the gravity of the situation. I felt the walls closing in around me as Mark's anger erupted. "You've been lying to me this whole time," he shouted, his voice filled with heartbreak. I wanted to explain, to tell him how lost I felt, but the words caught in my throat. I had shattered the trust we had built, and there was no way to piece it back together. The days following the discovery blurred into a haze of pain and regret. Mark moved out, taking only the essentials. I was left alone in our once happy home, the silence deafening. I spent hours reflecting on my choices, feeling the weight of my actions pressing down on me. I met Jake one last time, my heart heavy with the knowledge that our affair had cost me everything. "I never meant for this to happen," I whispered, tears streaming down my face. He looked at me with a mix of sympathy and regret, but I could see the reality in his eyes. We had played a dangerous game, and now we were both paying the price. "Sarah, I care about you, but this can't continue," he said softly. I nodded, knowing he was right. The thrill had faded, leaving behind only the painful truth of what I had lost. Mark called to confront me one last time, and the anger in his voice was like a dagger. "You betrayed me, Sarah. I can't forgive this." I felt my heart shatter as he hung up, leaving me alone with my thoughts. The life I had known was over, and I was left to pick up the pieces of my shattered world. As the weeks passed, I began to realize that I needed to take control of my life. I enrolled in a yoga class, seeking solace in the movement and meditation. Slowly, I started to rebuild myself, piece by piece. I accepted the reality of my choices and the end of my marriage. I found a new sense of empowerment in my independence. I learned to love myself again, embracing my flaws and mistakes. The journey was painful, but it also brought clarity. I was no longer defined by my past. I was ready to forge a new path. One evening, as I sat on my porch watching the sunset, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. I had learned from my mistakes, and although my heart ached for what I had lost, I was filled with hope for the future. I knew I would be okay. If you've enjoyed my story and want to hear more tales of love, loss, and redemption, like and subscribe for more. Life is a journey, and I'm excited to share it with you.